And those are all of our secrets.
Yeah.
Sorry you missed them,
Good
guys.
secrets, though.
Yeah, they were pretty good. We solved the mystery of how to raise a child. And now no one on the internet will ever know because it wasn't live.
How did you play No Man's Sky? Either one of you, No Man's Sky?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
I played like an hour of it, and I was like, ah. It's like,
Yeah, it's a
I
little.
really wanted to
Yeah.
like it, and I was like, I'm not doing anything.
So actually,
I
I
have the
wanted
same
to send I wanted to send an email to the show, Jeff, to DLC, because I'm kind of Team Jeff, but I have a sort of because on their show they have Jeff didn't love it and Christian Spicer loves it, even though he hasn't left his home planet yet for like 40 hours or whatever. But I have a theory that it doesn't, it's not really a game, but it doesn't really matter that it's not a game. It's the first time we have an experience that's accessible where we can actually be in space, see a planet, go to that planet, traverse the atmosphere and land on that planet. And that concept alone, I think, is important and should exist because it's a fantasy that we want as human beings.
No, I agree.
The problem is for most of us, it's not going to be more interesting than, like for an hour. But
Yeah, no, I admire the game a lot. I think as a piece of technology, it's extraordinary, and I definitely admire it and think it's really something special. I just find the experience to be a little hollow. It's like it's the first purposeless video game. It's like, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what they set out to make. They wanted to make a sort of a wandering simulator, and I don't think they say exploration is. I don't think it's really exploration. It's more wandering, meandering.
yeah.
And that's fine. I just found it a little bit shallow, and because the things you quote unquote explore, you're exploring an algorithm, and you're seeing variations on themes. There's nothing actually to explore. There's nothing to discover anywhere. It's just more variation on the same stuff you saw the first 20 minutes, and that's fine. It's beautiful, and there's a lot of it, but it's just not something that held my attention.
The thing that's disappointing in the exploration aspect of it is that you never, a variation on what you're saying, you never discover something that's amazing.
Right.
The planets are sort of mundane, all of them. You don't find like a Grand Canyon at one point or fjords at another. They all kind of look the same.
Right.
There's
So
no
if there
reward
were,
landscape.
yeah, the discovery isn't motivating, and that's a big. But obviously, when they when they do it procedurally, you're going to have that issue, I guess. But
I
yeah,
wish there could be some sort of mix between procedurally generated worlds and handcrafted worlds, and maybe the 15th or 20th world you get to is this handcrafted world, and you're like, oh my god, I was rewarded by venturing out and finding. I wish you could sort of have a Mass Effect type experience of cities and people and stuff
Oh yes.
that you find that
But the
they
problem
pepper
is-
in.
yeah, the problem is if you do that, you have to do it by hand, and then you can't have a galaxy. You're going to
No,
have
what I'm
a
saying
few,
is,
1,000 planets.
I wish you could do the procedural stuff for the vast majority of the content is empty and just there to mine minerals and find whatever caves and stuff. And then, every 15 or 20 planets you go to, there is one of these handcrafted worlds that's nothing like any of that other stuff. And it's sort of this little pot of gold that's waiting for you just across the bend, and you don't know when you'll find those handcrafted worlds and when you won't, but they're waiting. If there was just some sort of carrot on the end of the stick waiting for me somewhere, it would make the whole game much more interesting.
I think it's gonna be improved upon at some point, and it's gonna happen. In the chat room, Nuts is saying that Elite Dangerous allows you to land on planets. The problem is Elite Dangerous, you need like a engineering degree to take off from the from the space station.
Yeah.
It's a bit less accessible.
Did you see the Gamescom presentation for Star Citizen? Because that really knocked my socks off.
It was really impressive as a concept, but I want it to be what it's selling, but I really worry that everything is going to be subpar. Like the FPS portion was wow worthy because it was in that perfect presentation. I really worry that when you're into it, it's a very basic FPS game and it's not super fun, and then you don't have, basically it tries to do too much. But
Yeah. Well,
it was amazing. The presentation was definitely like, I went from, yeah, that thing's never going to amount to anything, to wow, okay,
yeah.
now I'm going to keep looking and checking it out.
Just the fact of being able to do that kind of a scale of a game with a buddy, even if I just had a buddy in No Man's Sky, I think it would make the game more interesting. Just sharing that experience with someone, I think already would be more fun.
There's something to that. If you could make a procedurally generated world, but have a little bit of a massive multiplayer aspect to it, where it's like you and two other people, and you guys could just kind of screw around with object and environment, and you could kind of, work cooperatively or perhaps against each other. Like, oh, we'll build our own tree fort or whatever
Right.
on this alien planet, and in sense, kind of have the player's world build for the game.
I mean, that's Minecraft, right? You're
Yep.
describing Minecraft, and that's what's fun about Minecraft is everybody gets to hang out. You post your little location, and people can visit your world and check out what you've made. And yeah, if I could affect the world of No Man's Sky in any way and have people check it out, I think that'd be a game changer for that game. It would be amazing if I could not only just name things on my planet, but erect structures or affect the world in some way, and then have someone be able to witness that change, like carve out my little corner of the galaxy and have it, because the game is so big, have everybody be able to carve out their corner, and then I get in my spaceship and I find this crazy world that somebody's been working on. I think that'd be amazing. But again, not the game they made, and I know it's so easy to talk about No Man's Sky and just talk about all the things they didn't do, but it's so massive and there's so much potential there. It's hard not to think of what you want more of instead of what they just presented.
I think to an extent, No Man's Sky is a thing that they did with math because they could.
Right.
And they
10
did,
people. 10 people made that. Yeah.
And but there's not, like, it's almost, someone thought of it and was like, oh my god, we can build a galaxy with the procedural thing. Should we? Yeah, let's. And then, the community turned it into this giant buzz machine.
Right.
But they were just doing it like this tiny thing, almost as how close can we get to an actual galaxy simulator, or not even simulator, but yeah, you get what I mean. And I don't know that it's it's not because you can do something that you should. It's almost in that category, I think. But some people like it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad for the people that do.
It's definitely very pretty.
It is very pretty, yeah.
Why are you not scraping audio?
Ooh, technical problems. Really glad I'm not doing that. Oh, there you go. It went live on the chat, in the chat room.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
It's saying it's live.
Topic change. And then Patrick, just start recording right before you start with the Patreon. Or are you doing the read, or are you doing the Patreon intro? I forgot.
I'm going to do the Patreon. It's basically a patron doing the read, so it's going to be this.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
Cool, and then we'll start the show from there. If you guys are all willing, we can start right now.
Sure.
And then
sure.
That way.
That's 4 minutes of potential labor that we
are saving
away.
ourselves.
No, yeah, we're saving ourselves from. Can we mention it on the show? I mean, I know you're not making a secret of it, but
sure. Yeah.
All right. Maybe it will come up. All right. I guess we can start then. Oh, are you hidden? Yes, he's hidden. Okay.
Yes, I am hidden.
All right. In 3, 2.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News Show for, what day is it? August 30th, 2016. My name is Patrick Beja, and I'm here in place of Tom Merritt, who is away on vacation. We all miss him dearly. We're going to try to do a good job replacing him. I'm sure we're going to manage because we have Jeff Cannata with us today. How's it going, sir?
It's going great. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So you are racing against your wife's going into labor, is my understanding.
Yes, she's due on the 8th. Technically, but we're feeling like it could be any day now. So if you hear screams from the other room, and then I might have to leave very quickly. That's not really, actually, that's not how it works. And every movie that we've ever seen about babies is lying to us, because every movie you see, they're like, my water broke, let's get in the car, we're racing, oh no, it could happen any second. That's not how it works at all. It takes hours and hours and hours. It's really slow. The whole first part is like distraction, just try to hang out and not get too worried. Movies are
You know what? That's great. That means that if it actually does start, you can just connect through your phone, and we can keep doing the show as you're driving her to the hospital.
I'd be like, hang on, honey, I have to finish this. Just 1 second. Hold
Excellent.
your horses on the birthing of a child.
Looking forward to that. You know what? Let's jump into the headlines. But actually, Nintendo announced a Nintendo Direct live stream for September 1st. They're going to be focusing on the upcoming 3DS releases, but they were very quick to point out in very strong words to GameSpeed that the Nintendo NX will not be discussed during that presentation. And now, some more top stories. No, that's not the right one. What am I doing? It's this one. Continuing a story we mentioned yesterday, the European Commission has ruled that Ireland granted illegal Apple tax breaks, and the company owes 13 billion euros in back taxes. The Commission found Apple effectively paid 1% tax on European profits in 2003 and 0.005% in 2014. Commissioner Margrethe Vestager, I'm not sure I'm doing a better job than the jury did yesterday, said member states cannot give tax benefits to selected companies. This is illegal under EU state aid rules. Ireland and Apple disagreed with the verdict and would appeal the decision. So this is an interesting one because as a European, I don't want Apple to get away with illegal stuff, but also I have sort of a feeling that the EU is sort of mounting a crusade against American tech companies. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable too.
Mounting a crusade in the sense that they're just trying to what? What would be the end goal there?
Well, I think they're trying to get money. The issue is for many, traditionally, if you have an industry that's expanding to another country, in this case, mostly United States-led industry implanting itself in Europe, you would have a lot more physical, work and products and things that you can link deeply to the country where they're being sold. In this case, there are many parts of the businesses. I'm talking about Apple partly, but also Facebook, Google, and all of those that are through creative accounting practices, basically not pay taxes in the countries where they are, I guess, having a business. Because really...
Making massive profits is what you're saying. They're making massive profits in a place where they're not paying taxes. And you think the EU is trying to pull one over on them? I don't understand. I don't understand how you side with the corporation on this one, but maybe I'm ill-informed. I don't know.
So the thing is, these are the accounting practice, the accounting rules that we have. In this case, it's very complicated, and I couldn't tell if it is actually illegal or not, because there are a lot of factors in it, and some of them I really don't understand. But there are certainly, in the cases of other companies, they have some teams that work out of the country, and the profits are sent to another country, in this case, Ireland, for most of those. but I mean, even from Europe, I don't want them to do anything illegal, but I also feel like we should fix those fiscal loopholes before we start banging on the corporations' heads with a hammer. Maybe a little bit of both.
I don't know. I guess maybe this breaks down along political lines, but I read a story like this and I go, I wish my country had the balls to do this. I mean, there's a whole mess of companies that pay effectively zero taxes and make extraordinary profits. Again, I don't know the details of this, and as you said, we don't know the exact situation that Apple might be in Ireland, but it certainly seems to me like fewer of these type of situations would be better overall for the countries in which these companies are making massive profits. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm anti-business as an awful progressive that I am.
And I'm the French guy who's saying we should protect the businesses more. Although in this case, if it's true that they're paying 1% taxes and then 0.005%, I definitely agree there's an issue there if the numbers are correct.
Yeah.
That is hard to argue with. All right, the FCC will not appeal a court decision that allows states to impose laws to restrict growth on municipal broadband. The appeal stems from an FCC decision in February 2015 to prevent North Carolina and Tennessee from stopping municipal broadband providers from expanding, saying FCC had congressional authority to promote competition in local telecommunications markets. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeal disagreed and sided with the states. So I'm going to be Jeff from the previous topic here and say the corporations in this instance, I would definitely not side with. I've made no secret of the fact that I think the major reason why the U.S. is not doing great on internet infrastructure is the telecommunications lobbies that are preventing real competition, which is infuriating in a country like the United States that thrives on capitalism and free market.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, the fact that I have one, maybe two options about where to get my broadband in my location, my actual home, is pretty awful. And I think if we believe in the free market, if we believe in capitalism and competition as a way to steady those markets, you gotta be able to have that be the case, and you gotta have actual competition for that service. So anything that promotes that, I'm in favor of.
And yeah, and the irony here is that what was happening, as is the case in many other countries, was that the commercial offerings were not. That's my understanding, but the commercial offerings are not satisfactory, so the municipalities are going out and doing it themselves. And of course, the companies are at that point saying, "Oh, whoa, wait a second! You're, taking away some of our markets. We can do it. We're going to do it. This is making it difficult for us to make a business out of it." And I mean, on the theoretical level, I'm sure it could be the case in some places, but I've seen so many examples where they want to protect the market to oust the competition and to just in case they want to do it. I've seen this in Europe as well. And if the municipality can do it, but the company can't, there's definitely an issue. And it's a little bit sad that the FCC had to back down on this one. I mean, yeah. In my opinion. Twitter now supports the inclusion of pre-roll ads to videos via the Amplify Publisher program. Media Studio and Engage apps have received updates for uploading, managing, and publishing media. Users need to check a box prior to tweeting, and a pre-roll ad will be inserted into an uploaded video. Twitter says there are opt-in controls and a non-exclusivity clause. The company also promises a revenue share agreement of 70-30 split in favor of the creator, a similar model to that offered to publishers. So, Jeff, are you looking forward to having 30-second ads in your 50-second Twitter videos?
Am I? Oh, I can't be more excited about this. This is great. Nothing I want more than to have Twitter get closer and closer to what Facebook already is. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. Nobody wants this. I guess if you use Twitter as a platform for delivering your content, then I guess you want this because you get 70-30. But I don't want Twitter to be a platform for delivering content. I want Twitter to be a communication platform that pushes people to other places where you can deliver content. I don't want to watch a video in the context of Twitter. I don't need that. In fact, I'm at this point, let's just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Twitter, let's just make it die. I'm ready. I love Twitter. I use it every single day, but I kind of feel like it's the worst. I kind of feel like it's the worst.
I was with you until like the last 30 seconds. What are you talking about? Are you giving up completely on Twitter?
I'm kind of giving up completely on people, mostly. I mean, not really. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here, but I kind of feel like we're just not mature enough to handle Twitter. It's the worst. It brings out the worst in people, and the benefit that it has isn't necessarily that great. I don't know. I'm at the point now where I just don't think it's good.
Wow. So basically, just to make it clear, you're talking about trolling now, about trolling and harassment and
yes, trolling, harassment, misinformation, wild rumor and speculation spreading faster than anything else. The way people interact with one another just denigrates the whole idea of a decent culture. It's just, I don't know. I'm sorry. I know I'm about to have a kid, so I'm changing all my opinions on this stuff.
Right. You don't want your kid to grow up in a world where people can be, I was going to say a bad word, annoying on Twitter.
Awful to one another. It's just, it's awful. It's a spew of awful. And I use it every day, and I don't necessarily think it's a good thing that I'm on Twitter as much as I am. Like, just take it away from me at this point. I don't know. I'm just ranting like an old man, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a kid, apparently. I don't. I love Twitter. I still think it's my favorite social network, and I have nothing but positive interactions with, I would say, 99.9% of the population. It helps that I'm not a minority, probably, but I absolutely love it. And well, to go back to the story there, I wonder how those videos are going to work, because if you do have a 30-second video, certainly you can't have a 30-second ad before it. If it's 5 seconds, maybe, but it's also going to be embedded in, is my understanding by the description, in the ad is going to be embedded in the video, so you can't skip it. You can't. I mean, I guess you could scrub forward, but. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want Twitter to go away, and if that's what we have to do to keep it, I would maybe be okay with it.
You're willing to add pre-rolled in order to keep your precious Twitter? What is it? I don't know, man. I don't know.
What is it that's good about Twitter?
I know. I use it every day too, and I love it. The people that follow me, I have a great relationship with. Yada yada yada. But it's awful. It's awful. It's like it's giving one presidential candidate a massive bullhorn to spread disgusting, vile garbage into the world, and it's making a whole lot of other people follow suit. It's just really depressing.
All right, we're gonna move on, but just
as we should.
I think there is maybe the bright side of all of this is that it's not, people are all of a sudden becoming more negative or more awful. It's just that we're seeing it the way they have always been before. And now that we're seeing it, maybe we can, over a generation, fix it. And if Twitter goes away, then we will never be able to fix it because we won't see it anymore. Do you want us to not fix the next generation, Jeff? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, let's ruin the next generation. One child at a time.
Thanks, Twitter. It's not the social network we want, but it's the one we deserve. I guess it doesn't really work. Finnish telecommunications company Elisa claims it has achieved a record 1.9 gigabits per second of data speed over a 4G test network, fast enough to download a Blu-ray film in 44 seconds. BBC News reports the technology was provided by Huawei. Analysts are skeptical, though, that this would be repeatable over a real-world network, with bandwidth of the network is shared, and most customers would mostly see a modest improvement in speed and reliability. So obviously, it's not going to be 1.9 gigabits per second for everyone, but I love those stories because we were arguing about the high-speed wired internet things and the difficulty of having access to those. And 5G is still a little bit away, but even if we get a fraction of the 1.9 gigabits per second on a 4G network, it could become something that is actually usable for regular internet over 4G. And that would improve the infrastructure everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think this is only a positive thing if they can squeeze that out over a 4G connection, and ultimately, more information faster is only gonna empower all of these companies to sell more things over the internet. So I wish everybody had Google's perspective, which is more people on the internet is good for everybody. So let's make this really inexpensive and really fast and really easy and really accessible. I'm in favor of that. I think I hope we move toward a future where there's just always Wi-Fi everywhere all the time that's free, and that it's just a thing that exists in the air, and all your devices are always connected to it, and it's just happening all the time. I hope that
I was going to say kind of like electricity. I don't think it will be free, but I think it will be possible. And talking about Finland, in the wonderful world of Finland, it actually kind of is, because a unlimited data 4G connection is about 30 euros, I think, so 35, 40 bucks. And you get very fast speeds of, I don't know, 40, 50 megabits per second for, reliably all over the city in Helsinki and in most parts of the south of the country. And that's actually happening in Finland right now. So I don't think it's a far-flung future of science fiction. I think it just requires a little bit of political will. And
I hope we do it.
And finally, Google has discontinued the Chromebook Pixel 2. VentureBeat reports that the Chrome OS laptop is no longer available in the Google Store or Best Buy. Introduced in February 2015, the Pixel 2 came in at $1,299 and $999 versions. The Pixel C Android tablet with optional keyboard is still available, though. I don't know what to think about the Chromebook. Every time I hear anyone mention the Chromebook, inevitably there's a couple of people that say, "Oh, that thing is amazing. I love it. It's being used in every school in the country. It's selling like hotcakes." But I've never seen one in the wild. Maybe I don't hang out in schools. That's my issue. And now they're discontinuing it?
Wasn't this the sort of high end, the Pixel 2? Isn't that the super high end of the low end? Chromebooks are inexpensive laptops, but this is the sort of the upper. So maybe they're just focusing more on what the Chromebook does best, which is be a very inexpensive portable computer for the masses.
I guess other manufacturers can still make Chromebooks. That's true, and if you want a laptop that is basically a browser in a box, maybe you don't want to shell out $1,000. That would make sense. So yeah, maybe it's still happening. They're mentioning the Pixels brand is gonna stay around, and the Pixel C is not going anywhere. So maybe that's it. I'm still, I don't want to say unconvinced, but I don't know what, but there's something fishy about that Chromebook thing. Something I'm not understanding.
It's a device that I don't have a use case for, right? It doesn't apply to my life. I'm not looking for something like that. So I've never really had a Chromebook or used a Chromebook, but I appreciate that there are use cases for it, and I certainly want an accessible, mass market, easy to use, basically web surfing device that you can give to students and they can write papers on them and surf the internet and do all that stuff is a positive, I think. So I hope I don't see that market going away at all.
Yeah. There's definitely a need there, and if you also have free Wi-Fi everywhere, that's amazing.
There you go.
That works perfectly. So yeah, that's all you need. All right. Thanks to Manage Mike, probably. Thanks to Manage Mike, Motang, Jonesy776, and all of those who participate in our subreddit. They submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. And thanks to all of them. That's a look at the headlines. For a discussion story, so we were joking before we started recording that today we're actually here doing the show when a much more important thing that we should be doing really is go save the world of Azeroth in World of Warcraft's latest expansion that just came out today. But because tech news are important too, we're doing that. But I figured, the World of Warcraft was a super important game for the gaming industry for, I would say, the later half of the 2000s. Everyone was trying to chase the business model and the game type of MMORPGs, massive multiplayer online role-playing games, and World of Warcraft. Certainly, it's survived now. It's not what it has been in the past, but the industry isn't chasing that anymore. It got me to thinking what other game types, genres, titles even have sprung an entire chase from the industry in the past. So I wanted to do a little trip down memory lane and look at all of the major game titles we've had in the last 30 years. Maybe not all of them. It's a little bit subjective of a list, but I've tried to get most of them in there and sort of try to evaluate which ones were major, which ones we're still feeling the influence of today, and which ones maybe have gone away a little bit. Let's start with the very beginning, with arcade games. Late 70s, early 80s, we had things like Space Invaders and Pac-Man. And we're going to go a little bit quickly at the beginning, I guess. Mid 80s, we had platform games and Super Mario Bros. And the first one that I think can definitely be exemplified as a genre maker is Tetris, with the Game Boy. Do you remember the time when everyone was playing Tetris?
Very much so, yeah. And I have made the case on my podcast DLC, that video game podcast, that Tetris is objectively the greatest video game of all time. And I think that is because it is the purest form of video games. It only works as a video game. There's no way to have the Tetris experience except in an interactive digital medium. And I firmly believe that 100 years from now, you will still be able to play Tetris on whatever devices we're using 100 years from now. It is always going to be compelling, and it is going to. You can play Tetris on on watches, on toasters. People port Tetris to anything. On an oscilloscope, I saw had a Tetris version on it, and I think people are going to continue playing Tetris because it is compelling and interesting and addictive. I think it is the perfect video game.
I think there's one of the marks of a great video game is how many clones it spawns, and whether or not we're still playing those games today. And it might be a little bit counterintuitive, but Tetris spawned all of those, match 3 type games. I mean, there were lots of them. The Diamond one, God, I'm forgetting the name. There was Puyo Puyo for sure. Loved that game. But even more recently, Candy Crush is basically Tetris.
Yeah.
It's a very direct clone of that game. So it has stayed. It was brought by the Game Boy, basically the platform that popularized the game, and it's still today we're feeling that the influence of that game, and somewhat unexpected, or maybe not unexpected. I guess we were playing on a portable device, and now everyone's playing Candy Crush on portable devices.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Pac-Man and Super Mario Brothers, and I think the lasting effect of those is really they've introduced characters into video games, and I think that Pac-Man, you could argue Pac-Man or Mario and Donkey Kong were the first example of a character that meant anything. I mean, before that, Pong and Space Invaders and games along that line, it was a generic theme, if any, but ultimately Pac-Man and Mario and games like that became mass market properties because these characters were ingrained in our society. And I had Pac-Man bed sheets when I was a kid, so I loved it. I was super into Pac-Man, and those games pressured companies to come up with these mascots and these characters that could be trademarked and built into larger properties.
I think Pac-Man is officially the first recognizable character for a video game, the first character, actually. Moving on to the late 80s and early 90s, you were saying that Tetris can only exist as a video game. How about fighting other people? Because Street Fighter, actually to be more precise, Street Fighter 2 was huge at some point. And there are a little bit of a resurgence of fighting games, very confidential nowadays. But again, as I was saying for Tetris, some people don't know because they're too young to remember the early 90s when fighting games were the thing.
Yes.
Everyone, it was the end of the arcade, probably going to the arcade, but everyone was playing video games, was playing fighting games, and everyone was making a fighting game.
Yeah, and I think loved Street Fighter 2 in that period of time more than I loved anything else. I mean, maybe comic books were the only other thing that I loved as much, and I was obsessed with Street Fighter 2 at that period, and it really was a massive underground, I don't want to say movement, but it was a culture, subculture.
Culture, yeah.
Yeah. You had to play at an arcade. I mean, I remember when the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter 2 came out, and it was incredible because you could play a near arcade perfect version at home. But for the large portion of that time, you would go to the bowling alley, you'd go to the 7-Eleven, or you'd go, to the arcade, and you would participate in a culture, in a competitive scene. And I would argue, as much as people play Pac-Man and Space Invaders and Donkey Kong and all those games with skill and panache, you see the Billy Mitchells of the world playing well, I would argue that Street Fighter 2 introduced style to video games, and you had a character that you played, that you specialized in. You were a Chun-Li, or you were a Guile, or you were a Ken, or you were a Balrog, or whatever it was that you were, that you specialized in, and the moveset, and the finding a level of expression in how you played the game. I think we still see remnants of that in the whole esports scene and MOBAs, and all of the things that are happening today grew out of, I think, what that game introduced into the gaming subculture.
Yeah, it's warming my heart because the chat room is talking about all of those games that some people might have forgotten, but there were so many of them: the Mortal Kombat and Tekken and Virtua Fighter and all of those. And what you're talking about.
Sorry, go ahead.
When you're talking about a subculture, even today in the esports world, the fighting game esports are, for some reason, the most diverse crowds you will ever see in an esport. It's, old, young, black, white, Asian, brown, everything. And most esports are usually dominated by Caucasian and Asian, usually Chinese and Korean. And in fighting games, for some reason, it's everyone. and there's a humility in there. It's really something special.
And I think it grew out of that arcade culture. I think it grew out of that urban arcade environment that it just doesn't exist anymore. So there's nobody going to a place to play MOBAs anymore. And but I think that we're seeing that the fallout of those days when people got together in urban centers and played arcade games.
Yeah. The 90s also saw RPGs, role-playing games, Eastern and Western, very different, their own style. We had Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest in the East, and things like a little bit earlier maybe, but Wizardry and Ultima in the West, very, very popular games as well. I want to move on to the mid-90s with the FPSs. First-person shooters, of course, Castle Wolfenstein, but mostly Doom and then Quake. Kind of like foundational games and genres, which are still among the most popular games today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think any history of the first-person shooter has to include Halo, because it really legitimized the idea of playing a first-person shooter on a console. You know, you have GoldenEye before that, but that really, as popular as that game was, it didn't prove that it could be done. And Halo, with the controller that the first Xbox was built around, proved that you could do first-person shooter on a console.
Before that, it was kind of the laughingstock of the serious gamers. Oh, an FPS on a console. That's not possible. Right. And then Halo came around. And I wanted to talk about horror games like Resident Evil, which were huge at some point, and driving games, which have sort of gone away. They haven't gone away, but they're more of a specialized gamer type of game. Basically, the people who like that play it, but it's not something that everyone plays anymore, where at some point during the 90s, driving games were really the thing you were doing. But you're mentioning Halo, and I want to move on to the 2000s with the Xbox, which I don't think we're getting to a stage where it's so many things that it's hard to choose one. But if I had to choose one feature, it's the beginning of the actual online gaming, which is... It was kind of the beginning of the dream that you could play with people from all over the world, and it started with possibly, arguably, Halo on the consoles in the 2000s.
Well, you know, Microsoft, a lot of people don't remember, Microsoft did a very bold thing with the Xbox. You know, you had the Dreamcast where you could plug a telephone line in, and it would dial up over 56K modem. And Microsoft said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make a console that you can connect, but it has to be broadband. And at that point, people were like, are you insane? There's not enough people in the country that use broadband. Why would you restrict such a large portion of the audience that it uses dial-up? And to their credit, it pushed the entire medium forward and said, hey, 56K is too slow. We cannot create the experiences that we need, so let's just abandon it now and move into a much more solid format. And you know, that proved to be a really, really powerful thing at the time.
Yeah, and again, if we're talking about things that others started chasing afterwards, that is certainly something that changed the entire gaming industry, because, of course, you're going to have people who say PCs were already doing that, and that's not false, but the consoles market basically was transformed by Microsoft's decision to go online with and Xbox Live. So that was certainly an incredibly important aspect of it. Of course, we can mention things like Grand Theft Auto, which was a big cultural thing, and we didn't even talk about Mortal Kombat, but that was more of a outside influence and the way it became popular. But mid 2000s, we're getting into the WoW era, and I'll mention, as I usually do, that I used to work for Blizzard Entertainment, so bias here, of course. But WoW was really something that kind of came out of nowhere and became the biggest thing there was in the gaming industry.
Yeah, it did. It changed the world, quite literally. I mean, EverQuest had been proving that there was a market for massively multiplayer online games. There had been other examples, Ultima Online and a lot of others, that had sort of dip their toes in, but Blizzard came in, refined the formula, and managed to create something that introduced not just RPGs and MMOs, but video games at all to a whole bunch of people. There are a whole bunch of people that started playing video games because they could have the World of Warcraft experience. And there were X number of millions of concurrent users during their high point. And the fact that today we have a new expansion out, and I'm logging back on, and I'm visiting areas that I visited 10 years ago playing that game. It's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary thing, and I think it moves video games into a place of a much more social relevance, I think, to have this concurrent world that you can dip in and dip out of over years of your life. That's an important thing.
And that's really what was different about the MMORPGs is what it was that the world existed whether or not you were logged in, and you could be in, you could not be in, but it was still going to be there, and other people would go in. And you're right, it's been more than 10 years now. We're still happily playing it. This expansion is shaping up to be. I mean, it's been only a couple of days for me, but shaping up to be really good.
It's awesome.
I'm always hesitant of saying, in shows like this that I really love it because of my employment history, but I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, it's something that surprised even Blizzard. They famously said they had planned for maybe 1 million customers, a million copies sold over the life or the first few years of the product, and they reached that in the first few months. And they had over the first couple of weeks to rush and use all of the servers they had they had bought for the year of the game, the first year of the game, and activate all of those in the first 2 weeks.
Not only that, but people don't remember they pulled the game from the shelves because too many people were logging in. That you could not buy it for a while. And I remember that first week, I was there on launch day for a while, sitting in queues that could last an hour and a half to get into the game. It was a huge moment.
Yeah, and of course, the reason why it became so popular with the industry is that you actually had to pay, as with other MMOs, but the scale of it made it more important, pay a monthly fee. That was insane. Imagine today if I told you I'm going to put out a game that you have to pay $15 a month to play. If you don't pay, then you can just throw it out in the garbage can. You're not going to be able to play it. That was
I think
incredible.
It changed the way people charge for video games. I mean, it made mainstream the idea of these different kind of pay models, and we've seen remnants of that all the way through today too. And I think that's an important legacy for WoW as well. And it's kind of amazing to me that 10 years later they're still able to charge $15 a month in the changed climate that we're in. That they're still able. They've never. You can play like the first however many levels for free with WoW, and you get it. Yeah. So there is some wiggle room that they've found, but the fact that they're still getting away with charging people $15 a month is pretty amazing.
Yeah, if the same game came out today, they would never be able to pull that off.
Well, there are lots of MMOs that come out today that have monthly fees, so it's normalized that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have, the most ambitious ones have sort of had to transition into a free-to-play model because they couldn't sustain themselves with the paying subscribers. And that's where the entire industry sort of crashed against the fortress of World of Warcraft, which had been established for years already, and that was refining itself at that point. So coming in as a new player was incredibly difficult, and arguably no one managed to do it. I guess the one game that sort of signaled for me the end of the dominance of WoW is, of all things, the most, as always in all of these industries, the most surprising thing, Minecraft. Again, came out of nowhere and became the most popular thing there was in gaming by far.
And I think that is representative of what I referenced earlier, which is the movement from playing a game on its own terms to expecting to be able to express one's creativity in the context of a virtual world. And I think that's where we are now. And every game, from games done quick and the indie movement and all these different facets of gaming culture, microtransactions. Everything, I think, points to the fact that the biggest transition that has happened over the last 5 to 10 years is that people want to express themselves in video games rather than just play them. And we're only going to see that continue, I think.
All right, we're running a little bit long. I should have figured, put two video game nerds talking about the history of video games. We're going to have things to say. But after Minecraft, MOBAs, of course, are now the most popular thing there is. Maybe we're seeing a few signs of decline, possibly. Esports are getting very big. But for the future, Jeff, in a few words, give us a definitive answer that you will be beholden to forever. Is VR the future of video games?
Yes. Yes.
Wow,
I think that the child that I'm about to have is going to be baffled that I ever stared at a 2D screen to play video games. They're going to be like, you couldn't just look around you and see the world? Why would you ever want to stare at a 3D world? Wait a minute, you're telling me you moved a mouse and that moved the head of your character? That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you just move your own head and look where you wanted to look? I'm going to be like, yeah, I know. I tried to tell everybody in 2016, but they laughed at me and said VR was a gimmick.
Well, now at least it's in the record for sure. So thank you very much for that prediction, Jeff. And that wraps up our discussion topic. The pick of the day is brought to us by Jamie in Finally Not a Sauna, Vancouver, Canada, who says, I wanted to let people know about a product that is similar to, how do you pronounce this brand? Aero. There you go. I never know if it's Eero or Aero or Aro. Thank you very much, Roger. The product is called Amplify by Ubiquiti, and there are no Y's in that. It's all I's, and is a consumer version of the Unify Mesh Networking solution. Like Aero, the Amplify system takes advantage of a base unit that replaces your router, as well as two mesh network extenders that blanket your house with reliable internet, wireless internet, rather than use extenders like existing solutions. Jamie goes on to say that there are a few options, one for $200, one for $340, and he knows that Tom enjoys Aero, but wanted to provide an affordable alternative. So thank you very much, Jamie. That is called Amplify by Ubiquiti. You can send us your feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Finally, Samuel Wolf says, you mentioned on Monday that Instagram stories that just aren't quite the same as Snapchat. For face filters, Facebook actually owns an app called MSQRD, pronounced Masquerade, which also puts filters on your face in the same manner as in Snapchat. So there you go. They are everywhere. And I'm still not a big fan of Snapchat. I still don't understand. But and the surprising thing is, I don't really get the stories in Instagram either. Did you become a stories fan in Instagram, or maybe you were already using Snapchat? But
me? No.
Yes. No.
I'm like you. I'm old. I'm old and I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't. I'm ready to destroy Twitter. So what do you want from me?
No, but that's perfect. I love it. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. It's
yeah, right.
Perfect summary of the way I feel about all of this. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jeff, for being on. You are the host of DLC on the 5x5 network. Where can people go to find this show and maybe others?
Well, you can always follow me on Twitter if it's not destroyed. I'm at Jeff Cannata, which is spelled with two N's and one T. The video game podcast, if you're into video games, that I host is at 5x5.tv/DLC. I also host a show about movies called the /Filmcast, which you can find at /filmcast.com, and a comedy science show called We Have Concerns, which you can find at wehaveconcerns.com.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Jeff. For me, it's not Patrick on Twitter, which I officially love. And you can find my shows at FrenchSpin.com. Pixels is a general gaming show, and the Phileas Club, where we recently talked about the burkini ban in France. And being French, I had a lot to answer for on that show. It was pretty interesting. People apparently like it. So go check that out at FrenchSpin.com. And thank you so much to the patron that support the show, the patrons. There's more than one, much more than one. You can go to patreon.com/DTNS if you want to support the show as well. And you can also do other things like tell people about the show. You can share it, rate it on your favorite podcast app, etc., etc. If you want just the headlines of the day, you can go to dailytechheadlines.com to get a less than 10-minute summary of the headlines. And it's still going during Tom's vacation. And you can email us at feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can catch the show live at... Oh, that's too loud. Should I turn it down? Yes, I should. You can catch the show live at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. You can visit our website at dailytechnewsshow.com. And tomorrow, Scott Johnson and even Koblenz from the Vintage Computer Federation will be here.
Podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
And that's a long show.
Oh, it was a great show. Awesome.
Thanks.
You are great, Jeff.
Thank you.
I really like your passion. It really just shows. I mean, it's great. I think
I appreciate
that
it.
entire discussion was really, really well done.
Awesome. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
No, I'm always worried about bugging you. I'm always under the impression that you're under a giant tidal wave of.
Well, in a
Not at
few
all.
days, you will be.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I will be under a tidal wave of puke and poop. Yeah. But other than that.
One word for you for the first couple of weeks: Merconium.
Yeah, I heard about
Merconium.
that. I heard about that. It looks like terror. It looks like the horrible alien garbage.
It's
That's Marconium.
It's basically the residual biomatter in a child's digestive tract when they come out. They
It's like
they
demon
pass it
poop.
out
It's
for a
demon
while.
poop.
Yeah, before
Oh,
they
okay.
actually have their own poop.
Oh, okay.
It looks like black tar.
I will say that one of the more intriguing things that I discovered, and I didn't realize I would discover this, was that they don't stink. Babies, newborns do not stink. You can smell their breath. You can smell their poop. It doesn't stink.
Well, that's good.
They don't have the bacteria and all that stuff to smell. And
I
it's
heard they get to a
wonderful.
point before they've been potty trained, though, where that changes in a big
Yes.
way.
I've had a couple of shirts I was wearing when incidences have happened.
Wait.
I have a show title I like.
Sure. I cannot
So-
pull up Showbot TV for some reason.
I'm going to head out, guys.
Oh no! Yes, thank you
very
so
much,
much, Jeff.
I appreciate it very much.
Thanks.
Talk to you
That was
soon.
awesome.
Thanks. Take
Bye.
care.
That was a great show. Very good show.
Really? Nice.
You stopped
Let
your
me-
recording right after the show, or no?
No, but I have to edit it. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I'm doing that. I'm going to edit it very quickly and then send you the MP3.
Cool.
Should we stop the live recording, the live things?
Yeah, let me do that
Or-
early. Let me see. I want to get a show title, and I cannot pull up Showbot.
Okay,
So-
I have it. We have a walk down memory game. I like it. A little birdie sold me. Running the next generation on one child at a time. Sorry, ruining the next generation one child at a time. The evolution of gaming. All fun and games. Game over history. What day is it? Etc. Etc. I like all fun and games and a walk down memory lane.
I like
Both by Dark Redeemer.
I like the first one. It's all fun and games. it kind of
So all fun
goes
and
with.
games. Okay.
We'll go with that. I am going to end this audio early. Thank you, everyone. Let me turn off Alpha Geek here. Return it back to its normal programming. And then I am going to stop broadcast. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thanks,
Thank you.
B-Master,
You were
for your help.
amazing.
You guys have been awesome. Thank you. It's going to be an awesome week, hopefully. Crossing fingers with your help. And I will see all of you guys tomorrow. Ow. I was going to do it, but I hit my hand. Stop and broadcast.